Hello and welcome back to Monster Monday. On today's episode, I'm going to explore and share ideas about yet another cool aberration of a monster, the serpent known as the Amphisbaena. Okay guys, once again, I am mining the Castles and Crusades Monsters and Treasure book because they have some cool things that I haven't really found in most of the D&D books, which is always a good thing. And frankly, no matter what fantasy role-playing game you might be playing or running, these are cool ideas that you can adapt, modify, and upscale or downscale to fit for your thing. Amphisbaena are strange serpents born from the cursed blood of the most accursed of the Gorgons. When her blood is shed, the drops that hit the earth out of her severed head generate new life, but not with promise. The new Genesis was also hellish, and the Amphisbaena was born, a serpent with a venomous head on both ends of its body. Dude, are you feeling this so far? Because I am. Now, even if you don't really use Medusas and Gorgons in your campaign, you can cut out that backstory part and just use the monster as is, or modify it to fit your campaign world. This is really cool. Each head is more dragon-like in form than snake, and its eyes glow like flickering candles. The Amphisbaena hunger for corpses and blood. They search out the dead and dying and quickly gravitate to them. Much like some of the other monsters and creatures in the Castles and Crusades Monsters and Treasure book, some of these things are derived from our real-world mythology. So there are references to Libya, Roman sources that mention these creatures in the wake of large battles feeding. You do not need to feel obligated to include these in exclusively deserts. And what I mean by that is this is a flexible enough monster to be literally anywhere. It could be an aquatic encounter on a ship or on an island or near a coastline or even a freshwater river or lake. It could be a desert. It could be a rocky plain. It could be a grassy savanna. It could be marshlands and swamps. The options are endless. It could be underground in dungeons. It could be in mines or caves or caverns. It could even be in cities, in the sewer systems. Oh, so much potential. Oddly, it was believed that wearing a dead specimen around the neck could cure many health problems or attract the opposite sex. Nailing its skin to a tree could aid in cutting down difficult trees or during cold work make it warmer for the laborers. Gathering Amphisbaena for sale can bring profit for those who would take the risk. Now, I think they derived that from folklore and mythology, but that's something that you can actually include in your game to make this an interesting thing, right? Like a lot of times, players are like, well, how do we earn money? And they go to the job board and that's your ticket to get them hooked into an adventure, right? But at low levels, it could just be, maybe they see a post up that, such and such is looking to buy Amphisbaena carcasses, and it's a valuable commodity, right? Just like hunters, bringing in their furs to sell at the market, so too could you have the hides of the Amphisbaena be very valuable. Now, if they're very valuable, then you should make them very difficult to capture and or kill. And maybe that is part of what makes the action fun. In combat, they are deceptive and capable of striking with both heads. The Amphisbaena will not easily stop. If there's a single serpent, the odds are better, but often their hiss will attract more, and this will cause the situation to become difficult to manage. I always like scaling things, either downscaling or upscaling. So I think about like a low-level party, you could probably have like an encounter with one of these, but then it hisses and calls for its buddies and two more show up. And now the party just got a little more challenged, right? At mid-level, you could have like 15 of them show up. It's up to you, right? So just adding more without even changing their hit points, their armor class, anything like that, adding more of them makes it more challenging. For sure, right? So let me go over some of the special abilities of these things. So they have the ability to constrict. A successful attack by the snake can lead to a constriction attack. In the round following the successful attack, the victim must make a saving throw. And this lists it as a strength save, which is, pretty transferable to whatever game system you're using. If the save fails, the victim is constricted by the snake for 2d6 points of damage per round. Now you can scale that down if it's a lower level party, because 2d6 points of constriction damage would probably kill a first or second level character if they've already been wounded by an attack in the previous round. So it could be, 1d6 or, 1d4 even if it's like first level noobs. A victim can make additional strength saves every round to escape constriction. But escape becomes more difficult as the snake tightens its grip. Strength saves to escape therefore suffer a -2 cumulative penalty for each round after the first. Let me just share this with you, because I'm not sure if you're a person who's played 5th edition, I don't know if you really know what cumulative penalties means. So in older, more complicated editions of D&D, for example, there were situations like this where you had cumulative penalties. And frankly, it makes sense. It's common sense. Think about it. If somebody's got you in a headlock, right, and they're choking you, and every round that you're in a headlock, you're losing blood supply and you're starting to get faint, it's going to be harder to break free of that headlock versus when it's initially happening, right? Or a chokehold or whatever. So the longer that you're in that uncomfortable, constricted, grappled position, the harder it should be to escape. And that's what this -2 means. It means that every round, yes, the player can make a roll to have their character escape, but it's at a -2. And the round after that's going to be at -4. The round after that's going to be at -6, and so on. That makes total sense to me, and if you don't do that now in your games already, you should add that mechanic in. Or just stop playing 5e and start playing Castles and Crusades. Now, another thing that they could do is poison. And this is something that, I'll read you what they have in Castles and Crusades, but think about how you can modify it for your campaign, regardless of system, but more to scale it for the challenge rating for the party, right? A victim bitten by the creature takes 1d8 points of damage and -2 to all primary attributes for the next 1 to 2 days. A successful Constitution save reduces this by half. So this methodology with poison, again, is a little bit different than a game like D&D 5e. It's a little more punitive. So if you have to scale the damage, like instead of 1d8, maybe it's 1d6 or 1d4. But I think what's more punishing is the -2 to their physical attributes for 1 to 2 days. Because if they don't have an antidote, or they don't have a spell that removes or cures the poison or restores them, that's a pretty hard hit, right? If their strength, dexterity, and constitution is at -2 for the next 1 to 2 days, oy vey, that's a lot of pain, right? And even on a successful save, constitution save, it would just be halved. So maybe half the damage in half the time. How do you roll 1 to 2 days, Bill? Flip a coin? Heads is 1, tails is 2, or roll a d4 and divide it in half? Any number of ways that math works. But the point is that even if it was 12 hours, 12 hours is the majority of an adventuring day. To be at -2 to all your physical stats is pretty powerful. But that's awesome. You should do that. You should have those kind of challenges. So how do we use the Amphisbaena in adventures? Pick a setting right now as you're watching this video. Think of a location. Desert, marshes, swamps, savanna, grasslands, jungles, mountains, rocky areas, beachline, ocean, island, freshwater rivers or lakes, any location. Now you might be like, well, what about the Arctic, Bill? The frozen wasteland? Okay, yeah. You could do that and just have the Amphisbaena be solid white like ice and give them basically like concealment bonuses to match the area, right? You could have Arctic Amphisbaena. Whatever the location on the planet is, you could work these in. Make them variety in color. They don't have to just be, this like what's pictured in the book, like these dark, shadowy creatures. They could be, like lizards, effectively, where based on their locale, their geographic location, they have a bit of camouflage that helps them to conceal and hide and be camouflaged in those areas. So pick your location. Now, whatever adventure you're running, all of a sudden you could drop these in. Random encounters. And if you don't know what a random encounter is, it's basically when you throw something at the party because maybe they're on their phones and they need to be punished. Or maybe they're paying attention, they're totally engaged, but they let their guard down and nobody within the last 5 minutes said that they were actively looking around and paying attention and looking out for ambushes. That's when you throw the Amphisbaena at them. They can erupt from the ground. 2 of them can erupt from the ground and attack. 2 of them can drop from the trees and attack. There you go. Pow. Instant encounter. If it's low level, yeah, modify the stats so that they're not going to wipe out the party. If it's mid-level, leave the stats the way they are or modify them slightly. If it's high level, boost those dudes up. Throw a ton of hit points at them. Or instead of size small, make them size medium. If you really want to build this from more than one encounter, then you have to create a story, a narrative. Well, how do you do that? Maybe the Amphisbaena, the small ones, the low-level, low hit point ones, are like minions that you throw at the party as they're on their way to something. They're on their way to the ruins. They're on their way to a remote fortress. They're on their way to discovering some part of the island that they have a map of, and they know that there's treasure there, but they don't know what it is. Whatever it is. The initial encounter is the beginning, right? These creatures come out. The party's never seen them before. They attack. Maybe the party has no idea of their ecology or of from where they come from, or maybe the party does, and they're like, oh, dope. Let's save the bodies because we could skin these later and sell the skins for a lot of money. They're worth a lot of money. You could have them make a nature roll if you're playing 5e or any kind of knowledge-based roll to have them appraise the value of the corpses of these things, right? And then survival type roll for them to properly gut and skin it so that they don't damage the skin. If they fail to roll, they effed up, right? And they destroyed the corpse. It's not usable to sell its skin. So you do something like that, right? And then again, another couple steps later, or maybe an encounter with something totally different later, another group of the Amphisbaena come along. And maybe this one emerges from the water. There's a pool of water, a pond, a river, a lake, whatever it is. Or if they're underground, let's say they're in a cave system, dungeon crawl, there's like a natural break in the floor, and there's like an underground dank stagnant pool. And maybe make it so there's no easy way to cross this, right? And even if they use magic to fly over the pool because they're suspicious of you and they don't want something to jump out of them from the pool, have this thing jump out like a freaking dolphin at the zoo, just whoosh, emerge from the water. And this one's a medium-sized one with 2 medium heads. And maybe it has a ranged attack. Maybe it's not just poison on bite. Maybe it shoots acid. It has like 2 acid ducts, and it could spray acid in a cone. And its bite does poison, right? Whether you throw 1 or 2 of these at the party, that's up to you. Make it challenging. And, have some treasure. Maybe the medium one is guarding some pretty decent treasure. Don't forget about treasure, because treasure is often the motivation for adventurers in the first place, right? And if you short them on treasure all the time, they're going to get, resentful, let's say. But at the same time, don't give them like +5 swords for a monster that they killed in 4 rounds. That's stupid. All right, now, they make it to whatever the location is in your game that you're doing, right? Have a series of statues in this ruined temple that they're going to. And the statues all look serpentine in general, right? You can have some like normal snakes, some cobras, some pythons, and have all these different statuesque kind of creatures. And then you have the 2-headed, dragon-headed serpent snakes, right? The Amphisbaena. Have like a bigger statue of that, like in the distance, right? And maybe just outside of the party's dark vision or torchlight. And it's like up on a pedestal. And below it are like a bunch of gems or, some magical item that they've been looking for, right? And as they get closer, that's when you have the large Amphisbaena come to life. It is in fact not a statue. It has camouflage and its skin appears to be stony because it in fact is, and it has a higher armor class and more hit points, and it's large, so all of its attacks do more damage. And all of its constriction attacks are at a higher strength, right? So it's harder for party members who get attacked and constricted to break free. And its bite does poison, and it can spit acid for more damage. So just right there, that's an upscale example, but also going from small to medium to large and building it into a storyline where these creatures are defending whatever it is, right? Now, if you wanted to just go ham, You could also have the large Amphisbaena be the guardian for the Gorgon, the Medusa, who is at the temple guarding the treasure hoard because it's hers and she has a right to keep it. And she doesn't like the party and she wants to see her snakes eat them. That is how you take this mythological Amphisbaena creature and use it in encounters or at an adventure, or even down the line you could link it to other kind of things and make a whole campaign built around it. But it's a really versatile creature that I found in the Castles and Crusades Monster and Treasure book that I love. I absolutely love this, and I think you should love it too. So if you have any ideas about how to use this or any questions for me, or if you have comments that are like, Bill, this creature sucks, you suck, go ahead and comment below because I take all of the feedback. Give me all of your feedback. I take all the feedback and I try to answer questions in the comments as much as possible. But again, thank you to all my patrons on Patreon. You can join the Patreon community for any number of prices currently in the pricing structure and be part of our inner circle. Until we meet again, friends, happy gaming, peace out.
Well, hello, and welcome to Bill Allen World. I am Wizzy, the Wizard. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. Tune in to the next episode of whatever show you are just watching and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.